Good morning. I just jumped in. I just want to see if anybody's here yet. We've got a few people. Yeah. All right. Facebook ads. Is this new for you guys? Have you done this before? Is it something you're looking into? You're just curious. Can you tell me a little bit about your business? And then I'll see how I can gear this session towards helping you answer your questions. Okay. And what sort of businesses, hi, Deborah, what type of businesses are you running? And how do you think that Facebook ads can help your business? Sorry for all the questions, but I want to make sure I provide the right information for you. Plumbing. So you're probably getting trying to get leads through the door, inquiries, share competitions where images are showing when people share beauty business. Okay. Online counseling. Want to make sure that Facebook ads are applicable. Okay, cool. All right. So we got 3 different areas. That's cool. Yeah, for sure, Mary. I think I actually just came off a call with somebody who they spend quite a bit of money on their marketing every month, and they have multiple channels: Facebook, Google, TikTok. They do a bunch of stuff, LinkedIn, and they don't have an oversight of what's actually working for them. So we're actually going to build out a dashboard for them to have like an understanding of, okay, these are your channels. This is how much money you're putting into it. This is how much money you're making from them. Because at the end of the day, you're right. You need to understand where you're putting your money, not just your money, but also your attention and your focus, right? Okay, cool. So that makes sense to me. Let me just share my screen. Perfect. Okay, so Facebook ads. Typically, there are 2 ways that people seem to get onto Facebook ads. I'm going to use the one that is the business manager account, which is the more sophisticated ad platform. So you can boost a post, right? So you can have a business page, and then you put a post up, and then you can click boost post, and then tell Facebook, hey, I want these people to see this post for the next so many days, and I'm willing to pay you this much per day. That's a really basic version of the ads manager. What we're going to look at today, though, is the little bit more. How do I get? There we go. A little bit more feature rich, and being able to be a lot tighter in terms of your targeting and understanding what you're trying to achieve with Facebook. So before we jump into this, I'm going to give you a quick preface around social and search. So social traffic and search traffic between Google and Facebook, they dominate about 85 to 90% of traffic in Australia every single day. So if you are on either platform, you should be able to get in front of plenty of clients, right? Plenty of leads. It depends on your offer, obviously, to make sure that it's appealing to them. But the 2 biggest differences between social and search is that if you're on advertising on Google Ads, for example, or you're using Google My Business, or you're having SEO and you're ranking your website pretty high, search traffic has a higher buy intent, which means that typically somebody who's on Google is already searching for a solution to their problem, and they're making a consideration who to spend their money with. So whereas on social, you're going to get in front of a lot of people that might not actually be in the market for what you're offering. They might be at that stage purely coincidental, but typically the messaging on search and social should be different. And I think social is typically more of an impulse buy, especially with e-commerce. But for example, the way they work together is that somebody might see one of your ads on Facebook and then decides afterward, after work, to come home, and they're going to start Googling your business name, and they're going to find your website, and there's more information, and they might turn into a client. So understanding that the 2 are sort of interconnected. It's all about the customer journey. Where is the person we're getting in front of now in terms of decision making? Are they problem aware, solution aware? Are they already making consideration? Are they ready to buy? So keep that in mind, that Google search typically converts better than social. Having said that, with social, it's much easier to break a new market open, to say, hey, I'm going to get in front of people who otherwise would have never heard about us, and they weren't necessarily aware of the issue that they might have, but we can now start warming these cold people. We call that cold traffic, and we're going to warm them up to actually become like potential clients in the future. Then obviously there's a lot of things we can do, like retargeting. So if somebody went from Google, went to your website, and they looked at the quote or the pricing page and they left, we can then start sending these people ads on social to say, hey, we still have some availability, or we still have some items in stock. Just make sure you take action now. And often we see that people that, because they've seen the product on Google and they basically get that nudge, they will still come back into that loop and convert. So does that make sense? How those two main traffic sources are in terms of quality or not quality? They're different for different purposes almost. Okay, so Facebook, this is what we're here for today. And I'm going to show you how to set up a basic campaign structure, things to look for, things to do and things not to do. And I think one of the main issues that I typically see with people that are sort of trying to get this done is they'll have an ad, they put an ad up, they put it out there, they put a budget against it, and then it runs for a month and it didn't work. And then, oh, all I hear is, oh, Facebook doesn't work and it's crap. And then, nobody should be spending their money on paid traffic here. But typically, the biggest mistakes I see is that there's no tracking. So we're not actually giving Facebook the information that they need to learn from the active campaigns that are running to become smarter and then starting to figure out who to actually get your ads in front of. So we're going to talk a little bit about testing today and how to sort of implement it at a very basic level. So that's a fundamental that I quite often see missing. Second thing that I want to look at is how audiences work and understanding that audience segmentation is really important if you want to get in front of somebody with the right message at the right time. When I say the right time, I don't mean like 12 o'clock or 9 o'clock. I mean, when they're ready to buy something, when they've warmed up sufficiently to actually now say, I'm ready to take action. By the way, any question you might have, just pop them in the chat as we go through this, because that's how I operate. I'll stop and pause and make sure that I can answer your question to the best of my ability. All right, so if we're going to look at the three core components that I mentioned earlier, so to advertise on Facebook, to have a Facebook business page, because that's going to be the page that is going to basically run the ads for you. So people, when they click on the ad, they can also click on your page. Second part, obviously, you need an ad account, because without an ad account, we can't run ads. The third part that's crucial is having the Facebook pixel. Have you heard of the Facebook pixel, and has that been installed, or is that new to you? Let me know. This is the tracking thing that I mentioned. The Facebook pixel is crucial if you want to get better results from Facebook. I'm going to show you what that looks like in here. And by the way, this screen might look a little bit different than from what you might be looking at when you log into your Facebook Ads Manager. Typically, Facebook is always testing things, and we might have a different layout than you, but all the things are still named and labeled the same. It's just they might be in a different spot. All right, so to get started, I'm just going to look at the data source, and the data source is nothing more than your pixel. I'm just using my my personal account here, which I actually don't run any ads on because I don't really have to. But the pixel ID, this number here, can you guys see that when it's highlighted? Yeah. This number here is essentially the code that needs to be implemented on your website or the landing page or wherever you're sending people. Because what Facebook does is, as soon as somebody clicks on an ad, but even if they come from Google, Facebook has sort of tagged that person in the browser and understand that, hey, this is a Facebook user. Obviously, they don't know specifically who it is, but they can see it's a Facebook user. And then we can build an audience based on people that have visited or have been included in that pixel data. And just checking if you guys are still here, because I don't hear anything from you. Are you still here? I think you are. We're not disconnected now? Okay, cool. I had talked to myself. No, that's so good. Okay, so the pixel is important. And have you installed, like when you're running ads, you mentioned you just getting started and you're sort of winging it. Have you got the pixel installed on your website? That's basically the question I've got for you. And I'll show you what the pixel gives us in terms of data. So I'm going to pick another one because this one has no data. So if I'm going to jump into just one of my other accounts here, I'm just going to pick, let me do that one. Events manager. No, sorry, that's not the right one. I'm going to use this one. Is that implemented? I think that's implemented. Sorry, I got confused sometimes in terms of the accounts that we're running. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so this is a one of my private clients, and I'm just using these as an example simply because they have data and events I'm going to show you. Because the Pixel has been installed, this is an e-commerce store in the US, a gift store. And typically what we do, we're not actually running ads for them, but because we installed the Pixel, we can still get all this data, right? And then we can basically use this data to create an audience and start retargeting people, for example. So we'll see here that in the last 30 days, I think this is the 30 days one, 28 days. Yeah, in the last 28 days, a page view is when somebody views a page on your website. Very simple. Could be any page. Now, you can see there's about 3,000 people in the last 28 days that have visited the website, regardless of where they came from. Then there's a view content. View content typically means they looked at the product on the page. So this might be a pair of shoes, a cheese board, whatever it is. But essentially, view content means, okay, this is an event that Facebook recognizes that somebody looked at a product. Then the next one here is clearly add to cart, which is, okay, if somebody actually goes shopping, they look at the product and then I click on the add to cart button. So they're getting ready for checkout. That's the next event that gets triggered. Then we have an initiate checkout here, which is when somebody from their cart then clicks on, okay, initiate checkout to start filling in their credit card details and so forth. And then obviously the purchase at the end of that. So these events are getting tracked through Facebook. We're not running any ads for them. It's a new project and it's only just got started. So what happens is we can, for example, say, okay, anybody who clicked on add to cart, 56 people clicked on add to cart, but then only 11 people went through to the checkout. Only one person purchased, right? So there's always a drop off as a funnel. And typically what we see, for example, between initiate checkout and purchase is that somebody might go on to initiate checkout, fill in their credit card details, their address details, and then they get presented with, hey, this is the shipping cost that now gets calculated. And then people might go, oh, I don't want to spend an extra $10, $20 in shipping, so I'm just going to leave. So what we would do in Facebook is we would build an audience and we could say everybody who has visited the initiate checkout event but didn't go to purchase, we want to send them one specific ad, and that could be a retargeting ad that says, hey, we've got free shipping in the next 24 hours. And what happens then is somebody might go, oh, that's so funny because I looked at this yesterday and I was going to buy, but shipping was too much. And now, hey, what do you know? They got free shipping in the next 24 hours. So I'm going to go back to the store and complete my checkout. Does that make sense? How these events would help us track where people are in their buyer journey and how we can reactivate them to still pull them in to actually make the sale. So this is just like a small example of what Facebook can potentially do for you instead of just running blank ads and hoping somebody's going to convert. So keep that in mind. The pixel, super important because without the pixel, none of this stuff will happen. All right. Back into the campaign setup then. Like I said, I'm going to do a very basic campaign setup and I'll make you sort of see how testing is important. And the reason we test is because if you have one ad and it performs really, really well, we don't know if it could perform better simply because we're not benchmarking it against anything. And ideally, let me go to Ads Manager. Ideally, what we want to understand is, okay, if we have two different ads, right, and we're going to send them to the same people, but they have a different call to action or a different image, there's got to be a difference in terms of which one is performing better. And what I mean by that is if I'm going to jump into one of these campaigns here, so I set these campaigns up in the last session, actually. I'm probably just going to set up a brand new one to walk you straight through this. Okay. If we're going to say, we're going to call this one number 2. No, that's not going to work. That's it. Create. Okay. In this section here, I'm not sure if you've seen this. If you boost post, you won't be able to see this, but if you actually use the Ads Manager itself, then you'll get a lot of information. Like I said, there's a lot more features available. Now, keep in mind that the structure is you'll have campaigns, and underneath the campaigns, you'll have an ad set, and underneath the ad set, you'll have an ad. So it's like a tiered three level or 3-layer sort of setup. Anything that we set up at the campaign level will flow down, which means that if we set a budget on our campaign level, that's the budget that's going to be used for the ad sets and for the ads. Targeting, same thing. So if you pick an objective at the beginning, make sure that you pick the right one, because depending on which one you choose here, some of the features down the track might be enabled or disabled, which means that you might have to start from scratch. So make sure that you pick the right objective. Now, typically, when you sort of mouse over all these, you can see on the right-hand side, Facebook is kind of telling you if you want to get more sales or leads, this is what you should be doing. If you've got an app, this is the one you probably want to pick and that kind of stuff. So what I would start off with is traffic. And traffic, simply because at the end of the day, that's one of the core principles of the advertising side of things, where we just want to get clicks to get people to the website. Having said that, when it says here for sales, because most people think, hey, if I want to sell stuff online, I'm gonna want to get sales, so I'm going to choose sales. The problem is that if we select sales straight away and we try to optimize for purchases, for example, that's a really expensive conversion event, which means that you're going up against all the other advertisers that are also bidding for that audience to try to get them to buy something straight away. If we don't have enough data, so the pixel hasn't collected enough data in terms of understanding who your audience is, Facebook is going to have a hard time getting the right people in the audience that you give them. So if we say to Facebook, here's 500,000 people, this could be male, female, between 20 and 50 in this location. So that's about 500,000 people. And if I'm going to optimize the purchases and sales, it means that they're going to try and find people that are more likely to buy in that 500,000 audience. The problem is that because it's a high value event, the other advertisers are bidding on that, and you might be spending a lot more than you would want to, and you're not sure if you're going to get the sales because Facebook doesn't understand clearly who your ideal client is. So what I would say, get traffic first, because traffic is going to help. It's a lot cheaper to run, and it's going to help Facebook to figure out, okay, based on the clicks and the interaction and the engagement we're getting through these ads and the people that are visiting the page, we can still start tracking these people and see what they're doing. They can now sort of make a profile in their database to understand these are the people that are typically going all the way through this, because you're still going to get some sales here, even though you're not optimizing for sales. Some people might still buy your product because it's a good fit for them. I hope that makes sense. It can be a little bit tricky or daunting in the beginning. There's a lot more to it than just getting clicks and hoping for the best. So I'm gonna start this off as a traffic campaign, and we're just gonna call this traffic campaign. I can't talk this morning. Traffic campaign number 2, and you'll see here that structure that I mentioned. You'll have the campaign, the ad set, and the ad. So the ad set itself, I'm just going to call it 1 for now, and we're going to call the ad 1 for now. This is just setting up the framework, and we can change this later. Okay. So if we have you can see here, traffic campaign here is set up in the first tab. We're going to jump to the second tab here, which is ad set. So if I click on that, it'll automatically go to that tab. Now, an ad set. What an ad set is nothing more than some targeting, some details in terms of, okay, this could be, we can have an audience that is male and an audience that is female. That would be 2 different ad sets. And this is typically how we start testing, and I'll get to that in a second. But if we jump into the campaign here and we're going to hit edit, we're going to get started from this point here. Categories, not really needed for 99% of the businesses that are advertising out there. So just leave that as nothing declared. Buying type, there's only auction available because this is how Facebook basically works in terms of how they charge their advertisers. Then you can see here again, in case you might have made a mistake initially, actually I need to get sales or leads instead of traffic. That's fine. You can still make a change here. Keep in mind, once you've published a campaign and you want to stop it and change this objective, it's not possible because Facebook says, sorry, this campaign is already run, it's locked in. If you want to have a different objective, you're going to have to start up a new campaign. So this is why I said it's important to get the campaign objective right in the first time. So we're going to go for traffic. Next section here, A/B test. A/B testing. This basically means that Facebook is going to try and do a test with the 2 different ads or the 2 different ad sets. In a nutshell, what they try and do is, if you're going to spend $100 a day, they're going to say, great, let's spend $200 a day, and we're going to run the same ad twice, but in a different variant, and see which one works better. This can be quite expensive. So if you don't have a big budget, I would always recommend don't use the A/B test because it's technically going to double your budget. There is a way to do some testing, which we'll get to later in the next level. But yeah, don't use it unless you actually have you're committed to spending a reasonable amount. Advantage campaign budget. This is essentially, if we turn this on, which I would recommend, this is because we set our daily budget at the campaign level. So let's say we're going to spend $20 a day. Now, what happens is, if I have one ad set, then $20 gets distributed directly to that one ad set. if you have two ad sets under the campaign, they're going to say, okay, we're going to spend $10 on this one and $10 on that one. So your overall daily budget will still be $20, but Facebook is going to decide between those two ad sets where they're going to spend the money, because they're going to figure out where they're going to get better results for you. So always have that on. Anything that has like a little plus icon and star icon behind it, that's typically Facebook's AI or their algorithm, and they're trying to say, hey, let us do the heavy lifting for you. So just enable these things and it will work better for you. Any questions so far? Does that make sense? Because I know we're covering quite a bit in a short amount of time, and I do this on a daily basis, so it's easy for me, but I want to make sure that I'm not going too fast and that everybody still is with me and understands what I'm sort of getting at. Mary, Deborah, Patricia, all still here? Okay, you haven't, okay, you don't know about this. Does it make sense though, how this would work? Yeah, Deborah, somebody raised their hand. It makes sense, perfect. Yeah, I can't see the hand raised anywhere, but feel free to ask your questions. Let's put them in the chat. Oh, good. Okay, cool. All right, so let's say we're going to do a daily budget, $20. There's a few options here. We can either do a lifetime budget or a daily budget. Both have pros and cons. Daily budget just means like indefinitely, we're going to spend $20 a day. If we put a lifetime budget here and we're going to run the ads for a week, technically that's $140 for 7 days, but what Facebook says is, okay, that's your lifetime budget. We could potentially spend all of this in the first day, or we could not spend anything until the last day. They still spend that $140 depending on when they see opportunities for you to get the best results for that money. Plus with the lifetime budget, we can actually schedule ads to say we only want to run them at certain times a day. Whereas with daily budget, it's just like, nah, that's $20 a day. We're going to spend it and we're going to just run these ads consistently. So a few different options. Campaign bid strategy. By the way, any questions you might have on these things, like quite often there's like a little information button behind them, and just, you know, if you want to know more about it, just click on that and it'll give you a bit of an indication of what that button really does for you. So what I would normally recommend, stick with daily budget, create your, turn your advantage campaign budget plus on, keep it simple. Like you can go overboard with this stuff. And for example, you can see the ad scheduling here. That's grayed out because it's daily budget. If I switch that to lifetime budget, it'll be enabled. But yeah, keep it simple. At the end of the day, your ads, it's not magic. It comes down to who is getting the ad in front of them and how compelling is that ad for these people. All right, so I'm going to hit next. And now you can see we've moved into that second part, which is the ad set. Same thing here. So it's a bit of a visual representation. It's like on an angle. So this is nested underneath the campaign. And the ad set here, we named that number one, as you can recall in when we set up the initial structure. And okay, a couple of things here. Conversion location. So this is where we want to drive our traffic, right? So typically website thing. I'm not sure why Facebook keeps defaulting to WhatsApp, because they probably are trying to push that product for some reason, but a couple of options here. So after somebody clicks on an ad, we can either send them to a website, we can send them to an app to get installed. We can send it to Messenger, Facebook Messenger, obviously WhatsApp, or we can even just get a phone call. Now I'm going to choose one of my pages in here. Yeah. So we're going to send people to the website. That's essentially what we're trying to do. If that's going to be an inquiry form, contact form, product page, whatever that might be, that's where we're going to send people. So website is the objective. Then, like I said before, with the A/B testing, instead of doing that, what I would recommend is using dynamic creative. And that's one thing you have to enable here in the ad set. So if we turn that on, what dynamic creative does, and I'll show you in a minute how that actually works, but what it does is instead of having to create 10 different ads, we can create one ad, but we can give Facebook multiple options to use. So we can say, one ad, but I'll give you 10 different photos or videos. I'm going to give you 5 different pieces of body copy, 5 different headlines, a couple of different call to actions. And what happens is every time Facebook will serve up an ad to somebody, they're going to pick and choose randomly from the inventory we basically give them for that ad. And over time, they're going to start figuring out, okay, we understand that this picture is getting more clicks than that one, and this headline is performing better than those. And they're sort of trying to figure out what works best in a combination, and they start basically creating ads based on that data to give you the best possible result. Does that make sense? How instead of manually creating 10 different ads, we just give Facebook everything that potentially could go in an ad and let them do the heavy lifting and figure out what actually works. Plus we can get into our analytics and see, hey, we understand these are the pictures that work and these are the pictures that aren't working. And that's how we learn, and this is how we can improve and optimize our campaigns over time. So turn on creative, dynamic creative. If you don't have this enabled, in the next level on the ad set, there's a few things missing. So if you turn this on, highly recommend it. Okay, optimization. So this is different from an objective. The objective is initially the overarching sort of strategy, but then within here, we can say the optimization we have, it's either link clicks, or we want to have daily unique reach, impressions, or landing page views. So link clicks is obviously they're delivering the ads to people that are most likely to click on an ad. However, this is usually very low quality traffic because a lot of people accidentally click on a link, or they might click on it and then they get distracted and go do something. Just a note, or like a bunch of stuff happens there. What I would say, if I'm going to spend money with Facebook, the cheapest way to make sure that at least they've seen my page, I'm going to go for landing page views. So this is still a lot cheaper than offering optimizing for purchases. If I would have selected the objective sales here, this would look different, and I could actually say my optimization for the ad delivery would be based on the event, the pixel triggers. And what I mean by that is if I go back in here and I'm going to select objective sales, for example, go to the next section here. Now you can see that this has changed from landing pages, etc. Like not changed, but it's actually added an extra layer. And I can say, right, these are the events I would like to optimize for. So if that's going to be a purchase, that's what they're going to try and do. So see how this is different because I swapped over the objective here. So if I go back to traffic, you'll see that this is a little bit dumbed down again. So all the other stuff is no longer in there. So keep that in mind. Objective, very important in the beginning because you'll find that there's going to be stuff missing otherwise. All right, I'm going to optimize for landing page views, which means that Facebook will not count or attribute a conversion unless somebody has actually loaded the site or the page in their browser on whatever device they're on. So that's going to give us an indication to say at least we know that people have seen our page. If they're not converting, it means that the ad probably did its job correctly because we got the click, but then the page itself has failed in converting, and we might want to work on our landing page simply because typically we would like to see if somebody clicks on an ad, they should actually convert based on what they're going to see. So make sure that your messaging is on point, that throughout the ad itself, the copy, the creative is going to be very, very similar to what the people actually experience when they get onto your page. All right, customer result goal. This is typically something I would not touch simply because if you do this wrong, you can spend a lot of money and not get any results if you don't know what you're doing. So we're going to leave that as is. Impressions. This is how Facebook charges. So we would call this CPM. CPM means cost per mil. So for every 1,000 impressions, every time an ad gets served on the display that somebody sees, that's going to be an impression. So for every 1,000, Facebook is going to say your CPM might fluctuate between, for landing page views, it could be $1, $2 per 1,000 impressions. If we're going to optimize for purchases, you might go all the way up to $20, $30, $40 per CPM. So you can see how optimizing for purchases, if you don't have enough data, can be really expensive because you're not guaranteed any sales, but you are guaranteed a high price to get those ads in front of people. So keep that in mind. So typically I start off, especially when it's new, get a lot of traffic through, and then organically some of those people will actually turn into purchases. And the more data that Facebook collects, the smarter they can become in terms of targeting and where to send the ads to, and finding that right person in the audience that you've sent them. Make sense so far? How your budget would actually go further, even though you're not optimized for purchases, you're actually going to train or season the Facebook pixel, as we would call it, to make sure that Facebook understands exactly who your ideal clients are. So when you give them an audience, they're going to hone in on those people within that audience. All right, then obviously scheduling, start date, end dates, pretty self-explanatory. If you have an event, for example, and obviously there's no point selling tickets if the event was yesterday. So I would always say make sure you have an end date. I've seen it sometimes when people run ads and they forget to turn 2 months later, they get an invoice that's like, oh my God, hundreds of dollars spent on something I was never going to actually sell. So yeah, keep that in mind. Audiences. Okay, so this is what I mean with the ad set targeting. So this level gives us the opportunity to be a little bit more concise about who do we want to get in front of. So we're going to run traffic ads, and now who do we want these ads to be shown to? So with audiences, there are three different ways to get an audience, and I'm just going to open up a new tab to show you. Close this one. Okay, so there's going to be an audiences section, and an audience is essentially a collection of people that match a certain criteria. And what we're really looking for is there are three different ways to create an audience. Typically, a saved audience is basic interest targeting. So this is us telling Facebook, hey, I've actually created two here, so I'm going to open up one of them. This is basically us telling to Facebook, okay, anybody between 35 and 55, regardless if they're male or female, and they've got an affinity with small business, or they might be small business owners, and they live in Australia, that's my audience. So then Facebook gives us an estimate, okay, we got about 165 to nearly 200,000 people that match that criteria. It's a saved audience. We created it at this date, etc., and so forth. So this is very basic. Obviously, we can go into here a little bit deeper and say, well, we would like to add some more interests. So typically, small business, the job title might be founder or director, whatever it might be. We can really sort of add more interests in here. Keep in mind that the more refined you build out this audience, the smaller the size is going to become, because by adding people that don't match a specific job title or location, and it just, the smaller your audience becomes, typically the higher your CPM goes, because the more defined it is, the harder it is for Facebook to actually find the right people in there sometimes. And if other advertisers are bidding for that audience, then your CPM is going to go through the roof. I always say, try to have an audience of at least 400,000 people. Give them a little bit of, you basically want to give Facebook the space to try and find the right people within that area. Does that make sense? How to not really narrow down too much. A few years ago, narrowing down was a good thing. Nowadays, because Facebook has gotten so smart, we basically say, open up the playground and let them basically decide who was actually the right type of client for you. So the second part of an audience is a custom audience, and a custom audience is a lot more refined. Custom audience is essentially, we provide Facebook with data to say, hey, here's my client list, and you might upload your client list or your customer list. Let me just drink some water quickly. So your customer list is like, if I'm going to upload, let's say I've got 1,000 people that have been my clients in the last couple of years, I've got a spreadsheet, I can upload all their data. So name, phone number, email address, that kind of stuff. And then obviously everything is encrypted and it's private and nobody can actually read that data. But what happens is we're telling Facebook, okay, these are my ideal clients. These are people that have actually worked with me, they've paid me, and I want to get more people like this. So once we create a custom audience, we can then do something what's called a lookalike audience. And a lookalike audience is us telling Facebook, right, these 1,000 people that I've got here in an audience, I would like you to go build me another audience that is full of people that are very similar to these people. And then Facebook looks at people's profiles and understands, okay, they know more about us than we believe they know about us. And they can really accurately create an audience that is very similar to the people that are currently your ideal clients, which means that technically, if we were to start running ads to those people, the chances of converting are a lot higher, simply because there's a much greater affinity with your brand and your business. Does that make sense? How we're teaching on training Facebook on who your ideal clients are, and then getting them to basically create a new audience to start advertising to. It is an important distinction to understand how Facebook optimizes and basically gets you more results for your budget. Okay, so there's obviously another bunch of stuff we can do in here to say, look, if we run video ads, for example, we can create an audience of people who watched a certain video that we posted, or how long they've watched that video, people who fill out a lead form. So if we're going to run lead form or lead ads on Facebook, we can say, for example, everybody who filled out this form but didn't submit it, basically what happens then, we can have a retargeting ad to say, hey, we noticed that you filled out the form but you forgot to hit submit. Would you like to try again? Little things like that really help us to make the most out of getting in front of those people and trying to get them to take action. So for now, website, very basic. We can say, if we create a custom audience based on a website, and I'm going to click next, what happens here is they're going to say, okay, what's the source? And in this case, it's our pixel. So we can say this pixel, which has been installed on our website, we want to say everybody who's visited that page or the website or a specific page or how long they've checked it out, or if they went through, maybe they filled out a contact form, whatever that might be. And then in the last, say, 180 days, so 6 months is the maximum retention. We can say everybody who visited the website in the last 6 months, we would like to create an audience that says 6 months site visitors. Six, that's not how we spell six. Oh, did it again. My keyboard's being a bit funny this morning. Yeah, 6 months visitors. Okay, so we now understand that this audience here that we just created, we know that these are people that have actually visited our website. So we potentially should send them a different type of ad rather than just a generic ad. This should be something along the lines of, hey, we miss you. It's been a while since we saw you on our website. Did you see this new article, this new product, this new collection that we have? And then we have a link to that page. So people then recognize the brand. They're going to go, oh yeah, I visited that page a couple of months ago. I'm going to check it out again. So an audience and segmenting and refining the messaging that is correlated with where they are at in their buy journey is really, really important to understand. It's not like back in the day where you would just post an ad, one photo, one piece of body copy, one line call to action, and that was it, hoping somebody would actually click on it. It's not a classified anymore. It's really, really sophisticated, and understanding how this works can really make a big difference for most businesses. So the lookalike audience we just mentioned, we can't create a lookalike audience from a saved audience, because essentially the only way you can create a lookalike audience is if we create a custom audience. So let's say we got uploaded our client list, then we can say created a lookalike from a client list, and that's an audience we can then start targeting. Okay, that's enough about audiences for now. So I'm going to go back into the ad set here. I'm just wary of the time. Once again, don't be shy. Ask me any questions. I know this is a lot to take in. Okay, so let's say we're going to pick an audience, and if you just click in here, you'll see that obviously we don't have a lookalike and a custom audience. It's just a test account. So we're going to have to click on use a saved audience. And I created an audience initially for this workshop, actually. So we're going to go Australian, 35, 55 male, female, small business owners. So we can sort of see, like I said, the estimated audience size of 160 to 200,000 roughly in Australia. And there's a couple of options here. Now, let's say we have a smaller audience. What we can say to Facebook is that if we hit edit, we can actually select the, where did I put it? Okay, I'm not sure why I can't turn that one on. The advantage detailed targeting plus, probably because it's a saved audience. This essentially, when you turn this on, what happens is that Facebook is going to try and find people that might be skirting around the initial audience that we've given them, right? So people between 35 and 55, if they can't find the right leads for the budget that you have available, they might go to people that are 34 and 56, for example. So you give them a little bit of leeway, once again, to widen the audience or the data pool they can tap into. So if you have that enabled, it's just not enabled here because it's a saved audience. But if you would set this up as a new account, a new audience, then you can enable that. And they're going to initially look at that core audience that you've given them. But if they can't find the right conversions there, they're going to start slowly branching out to widen that audience. All right, and then placements. The placement is obviously where are my ads getting shown. And what that means is simply said, if I click on manual placements here, you can see the options that Facebook has. Obviously, Facebook, Meta, Instagram. You can see here, it's the Facebook feed, the marketplace, video feeds. There's a whole bunch of options to get seen. And typically what I would say, especially when you're sort of new to this, the main things that I would go for is the Facebook feed and the Instagram feed. However, most advertisers do that, and it's going to be a more expensive placement. So your CPM is going to be more costly rather than picking one of the other ones here. Typically what I would do, like I said at the beginning, anything that has like a little star icon behind it, or a little plus sign. That's basically Facebook saying, let us do the thinking. We're going to use all the options that we have available, and we're going to try and find you the best results for the budget that you've given us. So just use that, the advantage plus placements. Okay, so that's the ad set itself. Any questions on this one here? And there's actually one thing I'm changing. I called this number one. That's the starting point. But now what I do, now that I've decided the audience that I'm going to be working with, I'm just simply going to copy that audience name and put that as the ad set title. Because now when I jump into my ads manager, I can quickly see which audience is actually performing better. So I'm going to hit next. And now we're going to get to the ad level. And the ad level here is essentially ad libs. Did I turn on? Yeah, I turned on dynamic creative here. Okay. So what I do, the ad name, I simply call dynamic creative, understanding that, hey, this is the ad and this is the function that we've enabled. This is good for reporting later down the track and understanding, okay, which ad has actually provided us with the results that we were looking for. So ad set, you get a few options. Catalog is disabled because when you select sales, for example, as the objective, the catalog will be enabled because even if you have like an e-com store, like Shopify or whatever it might be, your catalog can be synchronized to Facebook and they can pick and choose the items. So when you have the catalog enabled, they will even grab your product photos if you're going to be advertising specific products, and they will be pulled into your ad preview. So it's really easy to show these things. Always click on the ad preview on the right-hand side, by the way, so you can kind of see what you're working on. Facebook page, Instagram page, if you have one, just use that. So basically Facebook can start placing your ads on both of those. Format, this is essentially an option between single image or video, which is just a single image or video, and then a carousel, which I'll show you in a second, which is multiple images on a slide, for example. Website creative source, if you put in your website here, it'll pull whatever images they've found on the website into the library here as well. And essentially you can say, look, I don't even have to upload any photos because whatever's on the website, I'm happy to use that. Now, I don't have any, like my website itself is purely a placeholder. I don't actually do anything with it. This is purely so I can have an email address. You can see here, that's my business. And yeah, that's literally just a placeholder. So there's not many images that are getting pulled up there. However, if we were to say, okay, I'm going to select some images, and I've already uploaded a couple here for these workshops. So I'm going to pick 3 different images. I'm going to pick those 3. And what's going to happen is you can see that the images are now being added here. And there's going to be an option to say optimize creative for each person. What this does, a couple of things, is it might make the image brighter. It'll automatically crop. It'll add different soundtracks. Like this is an additional sort of test that we can let Facebook do. So I would always have that on, simply because at the end of the day, these are all functions that are built in to get us better results. Then primary text, headline, description, pretty self-explanatory. So what I'm going to say is I'm just going to copy this as a primary text, and I'm going to say headline, short headline. You see, as soon as I put that content in, description here, and then website URL, I'm going to use this one here. As soon as I put the website URL in, you see that the ad preview just went live on the right-hand side. So we can kind of see what we're working with and how this would look to somebody who's using this. Now, because we're using dynamic creative, we can actually add more info here, right? So we can say an additional text option, and we can have, let's say, the same text, but I might put in, a smiley or an emoji, as we call them these days. So this is essentially the same. This is where you would have your body content, which could be an elevator pitch. This could be, why should you be buying our stuff instead of the competitor stuff? Testing these things is important simply because we don't know necessarily what the market wants from us, and we can make a hypothesis and say, let's put 5 different types of angles in there. So one might be hey, it's nearly your wife's birthday. Here's a great idea to buy a gift for her. Or the other one might be something along the lines of nearly Valentine's Day. Here's a great idea for your girlfriend. Because essentially we're selling, let's say we're selling flowers. So if we're going to target men, we can basically have multiple options here because one of those pieces of ad copy will actually speak to that person and say, hey, that's me. I've got a girlfriend and it's nearly Valentine's Day and I don't know what to get her. So I'm going to get some flowers for her. So trying to test the primary text in here. One of the most important things, two important things. So image is going to be really important in terms of if people are going to start clicking through any ads. So if you add 10 different types of images, you'll see that, let's say these ads are running for about a week and they have had 10,000 impressions. We'll see that some of these images will get more impressions than others. The primary text will alternate. Correct. Yes. Every time Facebook will serve up an ad, it'll pick and choose randomly between the options we give them here. So the primary text can alternate on the ads. And then they sort of figure out when somebody clicks on an ad, they know, okay, this is the primary text they're interested in. So it's not like they're going to start showing different things afterwards because they sort of lock in on that person and they understand, okay, this is what made them click. And that's what they're going to continue to show. Then obviously headlines. Headlines are important as well because this is like, let's say nearly sold out. Don't miss out. Don't miss this deal. Whatever it might be. So these are sort of quick call to action. So people, they're scrolling, they see the photo and they go, oh, interesting. But then they see the headline straight away. And once they've read the headline, so the short headline is not that interesting, but if we were to say, I'm going to expand this. Sorry, I'm going to do an advanced preview. And we can see here, this is a preview. And then on the right-hand side, we can see, okay, let's change the headline here to say nearly sold out. And we can see this ad is exactly the same, except the headline here is now different. Once again, if I change it to miss this deal, it'll show don't miss this deal. So yes, to answer your question, all the bits and pieces, not just the primary text, but whatever we give Facebook here is going to alternate every time they display an ad, and they're trying to find the best mix and combination. They'll try to find out which of these photos are getting the most clicks, which of the headlines are getting the most clicks, and so forth. And then slowly but surely they learn what our audience wants, and then they optimize. So the better response your ads get, the lower your CPMs are going to be. You're going to win more options, and essentially you're going to get more clicks for less money. Does that make sense? How we would have multiple options in here instead of us building 10 different ads manually, we literally just use this as an option. Perfect. One thing I wanted to quickly show you as well then with the carousel. So obviously we select a single image or video, but if we would click on carousel, you'll see that the layout will be slightly different. So they're still using the same images, but you can see if I open up the preview again, that there's going to be like the little sliding arrows left and right now, right? So on Instagram, for example, people can sort of flick through these photos. On Facebook, same thing. They can sort of flick through these photos now. And the thing with these is that the dynamic creative is the same. They're still going to have all the elements that we've given them. And it's basically, they're going to serve up multiple ads in the same spot. And it's just up to the user to say, I'm interested in seeing all these other photos. They start engaging with the ad. And then potentially one of those headlines might actually go, make them tick and go, oh, this is exactly what I wanted. Or yes, I actually don't want to miss out on this deal or whatever it is. So it sort of increases the opportunity, the chances of them converting because we present them with multiple things at the same time. I would always say test this. You can say, for example, one dynamic creative could be a single image. And then what we can do is we can duplicate this ad and can say the other one is going to use all the same stuff, except that's going to be a carousel version. 10 more minutes left. Okay, I'll wrap this up quickly. And then I'm going to answer some questions. Okay, tracking. This is what I started off with. Super important. If you don't have this enabled, if you don't check that box, Facebook is not going to know that the ad that we're sending out is actually going to be associated with this pixel. They're not going to collect the data. They're not going to get smarter. Your campaigns will not improve. So always make sure that that pixel is triggered correctly and then it's actually checked when you run your ad. All right, so that's what we are doing. And I'm going to basically hit publish on this one. And I'm going to show you quickly how we want to test certain things. So like I said before, In a nutshell, don't ever run a single ad. Have a minimum of 2 different ads or 2 different ad sets, because we want to be able to benchmark. We want to see, okay, this one's doing great, but we notice that the other one's doing even better. So do we want to spend our money on the one that's doing even better, and then try to replace the one that was already doing okay, but see if we can then benchmark against the one that's doing better. And then slowly but surely, we basically keep testing them against each other, and then get to a point where we have the perfect ad, essentially. So what this is going to look like, right? I'll go back into the campaign, traffic campaign. We have a single ad set here, and then we have one single ad. Now, as you recall, I just said we're going to test here. So I'm going to say this ad here, I'm going to duplicate, and we're going to keep it in the same ad set. We're going to keep everything the same. Hit duplicate. And then what we should be seeing is, give me a second, it might be thinking about it. Okay, no, actually that's on the ad level. Never mind, I'm gonna, we don't want to connect that. Let me just delete that copy. Which one's the copy? That's the copy. Yeah, we're gonna delete that. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna do different. Otherwise we're gonna get short in time and we're gonna be left hanging. Okay, so what I'm gonna do actually, instead of the ad itself, we're going to duplicate something else. So let's say we're happy with this audience, and obviously within this ad set, we have that one dynamic creative ad. What I can do, I can go into here and I'm going to duplicate the ad set. So whatever is underneath the ad set, because it's nested, so the ad will be copied as well. So if we're going to duplicate the audience here, in the original campaign, and we're going to show existing remote reactions, comments, and shares on any new ads. So it's basically just copying across any engagement that we might have already. And what I'm going to do here is, you'll see we have a copy here now, which is essentially a carbon copy of this ad set. If I click into it, you'll see that there's another copy here of the dynamic creative single ad, single image. So what we can do, instead of targeting the same audience, which obviously would make no sense, I would say, right, I'm going to change the audience in here. And that's the only change I'm going to make. As you can see, this is the same audience, except this is in New Zealand. So obviously the biggest difference we're going to be testing here is different locations. So it could be the same ad, same product, same offer, same pricing, whatever it might be. However, the ads are going to be split up between 2 different people. And we'll leave everything else as is, because otherwise it's not going to be a fair comparison in terms of our experiment. So I'm going to just hit publish on that. And what you'll see is that we still have that single campaign here, traffic campaign, with our daily budget. That's increased to $100. Just keep in mind that if we toggle the daily and that kind of stuff, sometimes they've defaulted $100 for some reason. Let's just change it to 20 just to be sure. Then what happens is, if I go into that traffic campaign, the ad sets now have 2 different ad sets. So we'll have the Australian ad set and the New Zealand ad set. And the New Zealand ad set will still have the exact same ads that we were running on the other one in here. So everything got copied across. But the good thing is now that $20 a day is going to get split across these 2 ad sets. So Facebook is going to say, right, a campaign $20 a day. We have 2 ad sets, so very easy, $10 each a day. However, one of these 2 is going to outperform the other, guaranteed. And what Facebook tries to decide really quickly or early on, like even in a couple of hours, to say, hey, we believe that the Australian market is doing better for you in terms of the results you're looking for, in this case, clicks to our landing page views. So they're going to start siphoning that $20 into one of these 2 ad sets really quickly. Now, the thing that you want to look for, click on the columns and you go to your performance and clicks. This will give us some information in terms of what we need to look at in order to decide which one of these ads do we want to keep running. So main thing that I look for is the link click-through rate. That simply means that when somebody sees an ad, what's the percentage of people that actually click on the link to go to the landing page? That's obviously our main objective here. So the link click-through rate needs to be the #1 thing that I look at. If I can see that the link click-through rate here is 1% and it's 3% on this one, it's pretty easy to say, right, we're going to turn off the 1% and we're going to leave the 3% running. However, keep in mind that in order to do that, we want to make sure that they have an equally distributed number of impressions. it wouldn't be fair to say if one of these ad sets gets 1,000 impressions, the other one got 9,000 impressions, that's skewing the actual link click-through rates. So typically what I would say is try to make sure that they have the same number of impressions. If Facebook favors one over the other really quickly, you can always manually go in instead of say, I'm going to pause this ad set for the rest of the day. So the rest of the budget now gets spent on the other one. If they're both on par, then we can look at, okay, what's our click-through rate? What's the CPM? So your CPM is going to be different as well. What are our landing page fees, obviously, but this will give you the information you need to make an informed decision on which of these ads should we be focusing on, which one of these should we stop. And then, like I said, never ever just run a single ad set. If you turn one off, always introduce a new one that has a slight variation on the original, and then start copying, benchmarking again, and understanding that which one of these is performing better. Okay, so that's really Facebook in a nutshell. Sorry, we only have about an hour, but do the principles and the fundamentals make sense to you? Like, can you see how this could potentially work a lot better than it would? Which with traffic, with tracking the traffic, building out the audiences, getting the campaign set up in a way that you can actually benchmark it against each other, and then figuring out, okay, what should we be spending our money on? Which audiences do we need to be talking to? What ad copy is actually working for us? So this can be a little bit daunting when you jump into it, but once you sort of get a routine and you understand what the numbers are that you're looking for, it becomes a much more profitable exercise rather than just boosting a post and hoping that you're going to get some sales and then not really having a process or a system behind it. Cool, Mary. I'm glad to hear it. Yes, this will be put up on YouTube on our channel in a couple of days. After these recordings, they get processed and yeah, the team uploads those. There should be plenty of other ones out there. I do these every single week as well. If you have no more further questions, then I'm going to say have a nice day, because it is nearly 11 o'clock and I've got another call to jump on. Cost per mille, so MILLE, which is typically a sorry, yeah, double L. This is typically like any advertising platform will charge you for 1,000 impressions. That's sort of standard across the advertising industry. If you want to learn more about Facebook, they also have a program which is called the Facebook Blueprint. Let me just quickly bring up that link for you. And yeah, so this is Facebook. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. I've got a tool that basically tells me to stop browsing Facebook if I should be doing work. Hold on. That should be redirecting. There we go. There we go. So this tool basically, it's free courses that Facebook provides. You can get certificates, you can go through programs, and they will teach you a lot more than I can in an hour. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. My email address is bob@businessstation.com.au, and we do have these weekly events, so feel free to join the next one if you like. And hopefully that was useful. Have a nice day, and I might see you in the next one. See you, everyone.